Hello and welcome to the Baltimore WordPress Meetup. Today, October 8th, we will be talking about troubleshooting with WordPress. The meetup is being recorded and the video and links will be available in about 2 weeks on YouTube. If you're specifically looking for the links, they will be at the end of the video. So everything shared in the chat will be at the end of the video. The Baltimore WordPress Meetup is informational. Please use the information, products, and services that we show at your own risk. Just because we are showing a website, plugin, theme, or anything else is not an official WordPress endorsement of it. And above all, keep it family friendly. We will be following the WordPress Community Meetup standards. We will do our best to follow these standards, and if you violate them, you will be evicted from the meeting. No spamming or spammer-like behavior. We have people of all different skill levels and backgrounds, so no judgment for people who are at a different level than where you are at. And generally speaking, don't be a jerk. We have a few sponsors to thank before we get to our main presentation. The first one is Anphira LLC. Anphira helps companies serious about their WordPress development needs. They specialize in helping agencies and businesses that are frustrated by their WordPress challenges. You can reach them at anphira.com/help. Our second sponsor is Easy Alley Guide. Easy Alley Guide works to make accessibility easier to understand and implement through done-for-you processes and tools. For more information on web accessibility, including beginner-friendly tutorials, visit easyalleyguide.com. And our third sponsor is OBEE Digital Consulting. OBEE prepares all of our YouTube videos and does video production, so please contact them for your video production needs. Some quick admin before we get to the main presentation. If you have questions, please toss them into the Zoom chat, and I'll interrupt as we go if there are questions that are pressing, and if they're not pressing, then we'll gather them up at the end. And now it is time for our presenter.
Hello, let me just get my own thing up and going here. All right, that looks like you should be seeing that all right?
Yes, we are seeing the right thing.
Excellent. All right, well, before we get started, the first thing I would like to do is an emoji test. I'd just like to see if you can respond to things, since one of the things that I find challenging about Zoom talks is I can't read the room. I can't see if people are, yeah, okay, there we go. Carolyn is cheering. Excellent. Okay, we got a thumbs up. We got a heart.
And David says happy.
Oh,
He's
okay, yeah.
reading
Oh,
what the emoji
now my
is.
chat window has
Happy
moved, and I
emoji.
need to put my chat window somewhere I can see it. Yes, there we go. Excellent. And if you see me staring off in this direction, this is because I'm looking at you guys. Okay. So yeah, feel free if I'll try to keep an eye on the chat unless I get on a roll. I have lots of time for questions and explorations and conversations at the end. But if something is really, actually, you know what? I'm going to move this over here so that I can see better. If something is really, you're completely ground to a halt unless I answer the question, then flag me down, Jen, yell at me, do what you got to do, get my attention.
Will do.
So I am still curious where everybody is from, though, and like, are you Baltimore centric? Are we worldwide? We've got Philly, we
So
got Delaware.
generally speaking, we have people from all different places, but it is primarily around the Maryland, Virginia,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, New Jersey region.
Maryland, Colorado, New York, Pikesville. Awesome, cool. I used to
Delaware.
I spent a summer
Delaware.
in Philly and lived on Long Island for 7 years. So uh, I have some fond memories of the area. I am this is me And I am near Vancouver, Canada. I live on Burnaby Mountain, which is a very small mountain, but it's still technically a mountain, and it's just outside Vancouver, like the closest suburb that you can get to. Um, I have been working on the web since there was a web. Did I actually say my name? My name's Kirsten Starcher. I've been working on the web as long as there has been a web. I have basically over 25 years of experience, though I did take a break for a while and played in a touring rock band. You got to have these diversions in life now and then. I have been working mainly in WordPress for around 15 years. I call myself a front-end developer, but I like doing a lot of other things too. I do some design, I do lots of writing, I do website maintenance, and I just generally figure things out. Uh, I connect things and make them go. So I got an undergrad and a master's degree in computer science in the mid-90s. I learned to program in languages like Prolog, Lisp, Pascal, C, and C++. I built multimedia projects in Macromedia Director. I even wrote assembly language code for a PDP-11, which nobody was even using back then. It was already really outdated, but the professor refused to upgrade his own skills and so forced all the rest of us to learn something that nobody cared about anymore. If I was to put most of this on a resume, I would get laughed at because it is so outdated. So, what was the point? What did I actually get out of all those years and all that stress and all those tuition fees? I got a process for troubleshooting. I learned how to break a problem down into manageable parts. I learned how to translate abstract knowledge into real world tasks. So this is not really going to be a technical talk. I'm not going to be talking about specifics of code. It's going to be more about a general mindset and the approach that's helped me for the last few decades. And if you're running into the same problems again and again, it might help you as well. So I'll go through some of the approaches I keep in mind while I'm doing my job, and then later we can turn this into more of a conversation. So first, we're going to go over some basic troubleshooting techniques. Then we'll apply them specifically to WordPress. And then we'll look at some tools that you can use to help. 1 second. So what exactly is troubleshooting? It's investigating a problem until you can get to the root of it. It is, ideally, a logical and systematic process. Ideally. Now, not everybody thinks systematically and logically. Some of the most brilliant minds that I know are constantly jumping all over the place. So don't worry if your brain doesn't do this stuff naturally. If you can just take one or two of the ideas from this talk and have them pop up in your head at the right moment, that might help you when you need it. Before we get into the actual troubleshooting, let's first deal with the feelings of panic and anxiety that can come up when something is wrong on your website. So, maybe your site is actually down and you're a bit frozen trying to figure out, oh God, what is it? What is it? Maybe it's just something like there is a little CSS glitch and something on your home page. You just can't get it to be the way you want it to, and you've been fighting with it for half an hour. And we tend to get really caught up in these emotions, and the more we are, the harder it becomes to troubleshoot your site, oddly enough. So the first thing that we want to do is try to find our way through that. You're not going to try to push it away or fight it away. You have to go through it to get out of it. So first remind yourself this isn't personal. This is not happening to you. It's just a thing that's happening. What tends to happen is we start building stories around whatever's wrong. Like, oh, my customers are going to go away and my client is going to be so unhappy with me, and I've spent hours on this and I just fixed it last week and I've got to do it all again. And we start telling ourselves these stories about how this is going to ruin everything. So don't believe everything that you think. These thought loops are just sort of your brain's way of articulating what it thinks is a crisis, and you don't actually have to buy into it. You can watch these little thought loops go by and kind of go, hmm, okay, yeah, I guess there must be I must be feeling some pressure on this. But notice if you start getting snagged in them. Um, you want to keep the big picture in perspective as well too. Like, if your website is down, are people actually in danger of dying? Now, the last I heard, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I have not heard of WordPress being used for life support systems or nuclear reactor management, anything like that. So you're probably going to be okay. This might seem like a huge crisis right now, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just going to be a little glitch. Now, you might be feeling perfectly fine and capable and comfortable, but you've got a customer or a client who's freaking out and they're anxious. Usually, they just need you to know that they're worried and they want to be heard. They want to be reassured. So, let them know, yeah, no, I'm on it. I'm on top of this, and I'll keep you posted as soon as I've figured it out. As long as they know that you are, working on it, and uh, especially if they know that you're calm, they're more likely to calm down and stay out of the way and let you do your job. So the first technique of troubleshooting we'll talk about is retracing your steps. So sometimes it's perfectly obvious what caused a problem. Like you just updated all your plugins and uh-oh, suddenly you have no site. Cause and effect is really obvious. When it's not obvious, you have to retrace your steps, which is a lot like looking for your lost keys. Kind of, when did I have them last? They're not in the bowl by the front. I wore that blue jacket on Thursday, and maybe they're in that pocket. So you have to kind of look back at, like, when do you know the website was last working, and retrace what has happened since. So have you made other changes lately? Did you install a new plugin? Did you maybe update the plugins last week, but the problem is only showing up now for some reason? Is there somebody else on the site who could also be making changes? Has something about the environment changed, like server updates or a domain name that failed to renew? The next idea is only changing one thing at a time. Because when the pressure is on, there's a temptation to just jump in and do everything that you think might fix the issue all at once. But then if the problem happens again, how will you know how to fix it the next time? This can also have the effect of introducing new problems. So it's a lot harder to retrace your steps when you've gone off in 6 different directions at once. And now, instead of just having one problem, you have maybe 2 or 3 problems that now you don't know what the thing that you changed was that caused the second problem. So change one parameter, retest it. Change another parameter, retest it. Change one parameter, retest it. It's really tempting if you're on a settings page for a plugin to just be like, oh, okay, I'll just try all of these, and you just don't. Um, Side note though, restoring a backup, as far as I'm concerned, counts as one thing. Sometimes you just you just got to get back to where you were and then try to solve the problem, or proactively prevent the problem from happening again. This is, of course, assuming you do have backups, right? Because that is
Can I
probably,
interrupt?
yeah.
So one thing, especially when your client swears up, down, left, right, and sideways that they didn't change anything, but they totally did, is if you have a simple tracking or logging
Mhm.
plugin, it's not going to help you in the case of like a major hack, but it can definitely help you in the case of a small oops, the client changed something the client didn't realize the client changed.
Yeah.
And write down when you go to start making all of the various different steps, write down what you're doing
Yeah.
because you'll forget
Yes.
what you were had just tried.
Yeah. Yeah.
David dropped into the chat. Make sure that you've actually tested your backup
Ooh, yeah.
restore
Yeah.
process because You may think you have a backup, but
Hmm.
it doesn't help if you've never actually tried to restore it.
Oh, yeah. Also, having offsite backups is um, kind of important too, because a lot of hosting companies will, oh, we provide daily backups, and you think, okay, you're great. What happens if your hosting company goes down? What happens if they lock out your account, and suddenly you don't have your website and you don't have your backups? So you want to be
I, yeah,
downloading your
I had a
backups.
server company, well, hosting company. They were hosting at a data center, of course, and yeah, the site goes down. I contact them. Their response is, "Your server is literally on fire. We're working on it."
Okay, yeah, yeah. So that's why
So
you have
let's just
offsite
say
backups.
offsite backup for
Mhm.
the win.
That's great. That's going in. That's going in my stories now. That's a perfect example. Um, what you were talking about too with tracking down what the client is doing, even just page revisions is really helpful for that, because I have had a client kind of be like, "Oh yeah, this thing isn't working anymore," and I can be like, "Oh yeah, no, I can see that when you edited it on October 3rd, then you probably that might have been one of the changes you made." Oh yes, you're right. So. All right,
And
so
Gerald commented that he's now using AI to start with a lot of his troubleshooting.
yeah, we'll talk about that too.
All right, excellent.
Yeah. So the next bit we're gonna dive into here is breaking it down into smaller pieces. So it doesn't do you a lot of good just saying my site is down or there is an error. You need to get complete error messages and the exact behavior that leads to the problem. So does the problem happen on every page? Does it only happen when you do a certain thing? So you want to narrow it down as much as you possibly can and find like the smallest little chunk of behavior where you can find the issue. So saying my site won't load, it, no one can help you with that. You will not get support. You will not solve your own problem. If you can find out, oh, here is an error message that tells me exactly um, what file is causing the problem and what it thinks is happening. Great. You don't even have to be able to solve this problem yourself. All you need to do is find out enough about the problem that you can hand it over to somebody else who can. Um, if somebody else is telling you about the problem, also you want to try to get the details from them, because they may be, your client might be telling you, my site won't load. Like, okay, great. You need to get the full error messages, get them to send screenshots, whatever it takes. Make sure that you can replicate the issue yourself and see it on your own screen, because it's really hard to troubleshoot a problem that you don't have. I see we have another question here. Always struggle to remember what backup steps will suffice before doing PHP updates or WordPress core updates. Yeah, I mean, the nice thing with PHP updates is that you can usually roll back, but core updates, and it depends what backup uh, software you're using, and especially if it has a restore functionality. Like I like things like managed WP or sites hosted on WP Engine, where they just have like a one-click way of restoring your backup rather than having to download a bunch of files, upload a bunch of files, and so on, so that you can get online as quickly as possible. And yeah, if that helps. So if you haven't found the culprit yet, you haven't found that one telltale line of code, you haven't gotten an email saying, there was a critical error in this plugin. So what can you rule out? Can you prove it's not the theme? Can you prove it's not the plugin? Or if you found it is in the code of your theme, maybe you're developing your own theme or somebody did it for you, can you hone in on what bit of code is causing the problem? So that might look like deactivating a plugin, testing it again, deactivating another plugin, testing it again. It might mean if you're developing your own plugin or your own theme, commenting out sections of the code. Um, It might mean you check again, does something work on, if something works on one page but not another, what is different about those pages? Is something loading on the one page that isn't on the other? Is there a bit of custom code? So finding out what you can rule out. So if you can't find the answer, find everything that isn't the answer. Now, if you're coding, if you're doing your own development, you have probably already discovered some of the things that can go wrong. Everyone gets hung up on a mismatched parenthesis or an accidental missing semicolon once in a while. If you're not running on a live site, make sure you've got PHP errors turned on so it'll tell you what line you just broke. A lot of modern code editors will also tell you where where something is broken before you push it live so that you don't have to go through a lot of hunt and peck. Um, Bad logic means that your code is running, but what you think you've asked it to do and what it's actually doing are very different. So you might be feeding it the wrong variables, or you might have put a crucial statement in the wrong part of the process. So you can leave yourself breadcrumbs along the way to hone in on where you're going off track. Um, display the contents of your variables at various points before you are doing things with them so you can see if they've changed the way that you want them to. Make sure that you're getting to a certain part of the process that's running. And your screen may turn into a vast dump of extra information, but that is how you find the culprits. Sometimes you might find yourself doing something like working in the wrong file without even realizing it. You've been making a ton of changes and you're checking it and you're checking it and nothing is changing on your site and you're super frustrated because you can see the code is correct. You can't imagine any other way it would be. And then when you realize you've been saving it in the wrong file all along, fix the problem and then step away from your computer and go for a nice walk. You need to be able to look at your code and run through what's going on in a more human-like fashion. So if you're not sure about your logic, look at it and read out exactly what it's doing line by line. It won't help you with a semicolon in the wrong place, but it might help your brain trace what's happening. Now, you want to do this with AI generated code too, just generally understanding what it is doing. We'll talk about this when we talk about tools. So let's have a look at how we actually apply these approaches to WordPress in particular. Here are the usual suspects. It might be an evil theme, a sneaky plugin, a malicious server, or a flaky domain name. So you want to learn about what types of problems are most likely to happen at each level. If Chrome is giving you an error that it can't find your site, congratulations, you probably don't have an issue with your theme or plugin and you can just rule that all out. Like, not even a problem, don't even waste time considering it. Sometimes it's not even your problem or your responsibility. I've had a client call me all upset that their site was down, and after a few minutes of digging, I found out that they hadn't paid their hosting bill. So you can use this table as a general guide for where to start your search for the problem. It will help you eliminate the suspects and save time digging in the wrong area. There are a couple of maybe cases where it is possible for this part of the system to cause your problem, but it's just a lot less likely than the other options. At the end, I'm going to have a link where you can grab a PDF with this chart and some more descriptions of the types of errors that you're getting here and some quick fixes that you can try. If you don't want to be on my mailing list to get the PDF, then screenshot it now while you can. 3, 2, 1. Okay, go. So there can be a lot of different reasons why a plugin might be causing you problems. If it's not immediately obvious what plugin is causing the issue, you want to try turning it off one at a time and reload to see if the problem disappears. So sometimes this isn't possible or isn't helpful because the functionality that you need to test is in the slider or is in the plugin. So if you have like a slider that you're trying to solve a problem with, you can't deactivate the slider plugin because then both the slider and the problem go away, and you have nothing to debug. So sometimes also a problem won't appear unless you have two particular plugins activated together. So keep an eye out for that. Maybe you keep your slider active, but you start deactivating all the other plugins and and then start turning them on one by one to see if the problem reappears when one of them gets turned on again. If you are getting a white screen of death and you can't even get to the dashboard, you can temporarily turn off a plugin by renaming its folder. You go in with either SFTP or the command line or your hosting company's file manager, and you can just rename the folder and reload WordPress, and it won't be able to find the plugin that it's looking for. And okay, well, we'll load without that. And then your dashboard should at least come back up and you should be able to do things. You will want to then fix the rogue plugin, however that happens, or delete it, or whatever you need to do, or rename it when you're done. So, because otherwise you'll run into problems if you leave it renamed the wrong thing, but that's a whole other tangent. Themes and theme conflicts are much the same way. So you might want to, before you start messing around with changing themes, you are going to want to set up a staging site, which we'll talk about. And then you might want to switch to a default WordPress theme to see if the problem still occurs. Again, sometimes this won't help you because if the thing that you're trying to debug is built into your current theme, then switching to another theme is going to make it go away and you have nothing to debug. All right, here are some tools that will help you with all of this. So a staging site is very simply just a clone of your current site, as close to it as possible. You can have a staging site on your local computer, or you can have it on the same server where you're hosting. It is vital for being able to test things in a safe sandbox environment where you can break and fix things where no one else can see them. It's best if you can have it on the same server and in the same environment, same version of PHP, all of that stuff, because you want to be sure that your staging site is as similar as possible to your live site. Otherwise, how will you be sure if the thing that you're fixing is actually comparable? Especially for something like PHP versions, where if you have a very different PHP version between your live and your staging site, you really have two different sites. Most hosting companies these days have a one-click staging site option somewhere. There are also some off-site option, third-party options, and I'll have some links to that at the end as well. A browser inspector is a critically important tool without which you won't be able to get anything done. It will help you hone in on culprits, especially for layout and JavaScript errors. In this screenshot, you can see you can examine certain things in the source and look at the CSS styles and what's being applied to it. You will also see JavaScript errors in the console as they come up. So you can take whatever information you get from that and use it to tweak and improve things. At the end, there will also be a link on how to open your browser inspector in any browser. In general, JavaScript errors are more likely to cause something to act kind of strange on your site, especially with the interface, and PHP errors are more likely to crash your site. So for PHP errors, you want to find your error logs, which will tell you exactly what line of what file is causing your site to barf. When you find this, you don't have to necessarily be a programmer. You can just look at the file path and you'll know where the problem is. So you can contact the developer who built the thing that is breaking and let them know, hey, your code is breaking. Could you please release a fix? The exact location of your PHP error logs is going to depend on your host. Some of them will bring them up handily for you in a nice control panel window in the browser. Others will tell you where to find them in the file manager. Others, you have to turn them on somewhere, and then you have to go on a wild goose chase trying to track them down. When in doubt, contact your host. So the great thing about WordPress being as popular as it is that someone else has almost always solved your problem already. So being able to do accurate searches and find forums and dig through forums is often more important than actually knowing how to code in the language you're working in. Individual plugins and themes usually have good support forums, certainly anything that's on the WordPress plugin repository. And you can go in there and see if the author has answered someone else's questions about the same issue. AI obviously is a pretty awesome tool for troubleshooting. It can make your life so much easier, save you hours of frustrated digging through forums and trial and error and, guessing. It can also lead you off down the garden path and tell you things that are completely and totally wrong and useless. So you do need to know a certain amount of basic troubleshooting yourself to actually be able to skillfully use AI to solve your problem, because otherwise you're going to have a little bit of difficulty determining what is helpful and what is misguided. And it is really important that you do this, that you learn this, because the side effect of using AI has been that us humans are starting to lose our own ability to think critically and to solve problems. So that's the catch with all of this. If you don't learn to solve the problem yourself, if you don't go through the process yourself, you don't actually learn anything. So when you're asking AI to solve your problems for you, first of all, be a little skeptical about what it gives you. Very often, it's getting its answers from something like, I don't know, a reply on Stack Exchange from a post 12 years ago. And the code that worked for something related to WordPress back then might not work now. Code changes, interfaces change. Uh, Again, being able to generally understand what it's giving you, not just taking a giant function and dumping it in without looking at it. Be able to skim it as if it were pseudocode, so what you're seeing makes some sense to you. Now, this isn't going to help you with things like, is this function creating a security hole? Uh, and you don't really know for sure if it is or isn't going to do that. Sometimes it might, sometimes it might not. So it definitely does. It would behoove you to know what it is doing before you put it on your site. Be very thorough when you're asking it for help with something specific. Give it plenty of details. It seems to kind of help it keep it on track, and it prevents it making assumptions about your situation. If you can give it as much context, give all the error messages, it's kind of really just like we said before, being very thorough and specific, so that it can hone in on the suspect as uh, thoroughly as possible. I don't have another word for that. I have found screenshots to be extremely helpful. Many, many times, ChatGPT has told me to change some settings that don't actually exist in the interface. It goes like, okay, yeah, no, just go to the settings, general, whatever this plugin is, and then go to this tab. And I'm like, that there is no tab. There are no tabs. There's no tabs here at all. I don't know what you're talking about. If you take a screenshot of what you're actually seeing, it will save you a lot of arguing and confusion. I've now gotten to the point where anytime I'm trying to solve something, I'm just throwing in a screenshot as well, so that it can see which version of the software I'm working with. And it's really great for correcting it. And it is amazing how it will turn things around all of a sudden, say, oh, that makes perfect sense now, and give you a whole new answer. So that is everything that I have prepared as such. We have here a link that maybe Jen could throw into the chat for easy clicking. And I have a bunch of things on there about things that we talked about, as well as the sign up to get the quick fix guide, which will have that chart and a bunch of other odds and ends. I also offer a course on WordPress troubleshooting, which goes into much more detail about all of these things, as well as I do group and individual WordPress coaching. And if you're like, no, this is not for me, I don't want to deal with it, I just want someone else to solve my problem, you can also hire me to fix it. So yeah, let's open it up here. And
Thank you, Kirsten.
what would people like to chat about?
If anyone has any questions and they'd like to speak their question, just drop a question mark into the chat and we will unmute you and we can chat. Of course, I had a memory issue. And of course, as soon as I turned on all my logging, the memory issue vanished. And I'm like, really? We were having we were having memory usage spikes, so I turned on all the logging for it and
Which is not what you would think would be
down
the
it.
thing that would fix it.
I'm like, I guess you just like it better when I'm watching you.
Here brings up another important point. People often you run into these situations and where something something has not been working, and then you ask your friend to come over and have a look, and all of a sudden it's working again. This happens to all of us, where things mysteriously appear and disappear. Yesterday, I was actually trying to troubleshoot my network connection, and as I went to take a screenshot of what message I was getting why it wasn't connecting, it just magically reconnected itself. And and this happens to all of us, whether we're experts or novices. It is a mystery that will remain unsolved.
Have been convinced for a very long period of time, including when my dad was working on an old Apple 128, that
Ooh.
the computer knows when you're watching it. Someone who knows what they're doing is watching it too. The computer has feelings.
Mhm.
Sometimes if you patted it on the side in the right spot, it'd start running again.
That may just be because the hard drive was a little loose, right?
Yeah, yeah. But definitely there was a spot on the side that you just gently patted it, and then the errors would go away, and you're like, uh-huh,
Okay.
the spot patting there.
Every once in a
Yeah.
while, I'll ask AI if it's sentient yet, just to check.
Oh, Carolyn said that her last PC tower would turn off when her cat touched it. Your tower didn't like your cat.
Maybe static electricity.
That's
It's
entirely.
funny, like there's been people I know who have bizarrely difficult times with technology that one refers to as the touch of death, where it'll be
Oh,
working fine, and then they try to use it and something just goes wrong, and it sounds like your cat had that.
yeah. My husband, we've discovered that if he ever has an EKG again, we can't let him anywhere near electronics for like 4 hours. It's a weird situation. He's got like a weird electromagnetic system in his body, and
Huh.
like the two times he's had an EKG were like well, the first time he literally fried his phone
Oh,
after
wow.
it. And so afterwards he like goes outside, holds onto the bike rack, grounds himself. Okay, you can get in my car, but you can't touch anything except the seatbelt. That's safe. Don't even think about touching anything. We just kept away from everything for like 4 hours, and
Wow.
then everything was fine.
I mean,
It didn't do anything to
that
the
sounds kind of
electronics.
like a superpower in the making somehow. Like there must be a way to harness that energy. Use it for good, not evil.
I'm not really sure on that one.
I can't actually help you with that. It's just an observation. Anyone else have any good stories about troubleshooting gone horribly wrong, or questions about things specific to WordPress issues? Ah,
Excellent. I will send you an unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
yes, hello.
Okay, so thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting. I have a question that you may answer it in your courses, maybe, or in your website that you send to us. But if you can answer now, let's say, okay, we have different WordPress versions, PHP versions, plugin versions, theme versions. So let's say a scenario that something breaks in a, let's say, in a plugin. Because plugins are maintained from different developers, so may not work in some version updates or something. Or maybe we just found a new error or a plugin. And we managed to solve the issue because, let's say, we have some programming skills, software engineering skills, and we managed to solve the issue inside the plugin code.
Mhm.
So then what you propose would be the best steps to further deploy and maintain that plugin? Because I understand that we have a different version of the plugin in the
Mhm.
first phase, but in the other phase, we cannot wait for the developer to maybe do a fixed release version, and I just fixed the issue now.
Yeah, well, if you've done that, and I mean, you are already aware, and many people may not be, that if you if you make changes, code changes to a plugin or theme, and then you use WordPress's automatic update process for the next time that plugin or theme is updated, what you've changed will be lost and overwritten.
Yes.
So, and the same thing goes for WordPress core, and I just want to emphasize, do not change files in WordPress core. Just leave it alone. Don't edit WordPress core. Themes and plugins, if you have found a patch, I would send the developer a note that says, hey, I was having this problem. Here is how I fixed it. You might want to roll this out in a new update. If the developer is still actively maintaining the plugin, hopefully they will take your advice and incorporate it into the next update and release it. They will probably be very grateful to you because they didn't have to do it themselves and they didn't have to solve the problem, and they will thank you. If they are no longer updating it and it's just been abandoned, if there's a forum for it, I would post on the forum and say, here is how I solved this issue that everybody else who's using this abandoned plugin, probably the same issue that everybody else is having. So if the developer doesn't incorporate your changes, I suppose you could rename the folder and kind of keep your own separate copy of the plugin, just so
But
that
then
If
you.
the update,
sometimes
yes, yes, you
So
can.
sometimes the developer has set up the system, a lot of the big plugins, WooCommerce, the events calendar, and many others have a system where you can override many of their files in your own theme. So I'll usually have a child theme, and then I will have the overrides of the various different files. So then I've put the override into my theme, so when the plugin gets updated, that override won't get overwritten.
That is an excellent idea as well.
Yes, I like this idea also because so I understand that we're trying, of course, to keep updated the official version of the plugin so we don't have some conflicts. But if the developer may not do the change or is not maintaining anymore, okay, this solution also is very good, I think, to keep some files that are overwriting the plugin after the new versions.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Okay.
share it with people because you know you're not the only one running into that
Of
problem.
course.
Yeah. Michael BT says, I'd suggest if it's a plugin that's in the repository and you've customized it, change the name of the plugin in the index, plugin name modified. That way it will not be considered the same plugin and won't be downloaded from the repo. So there's another option. And thank you very much, Gerald. We got any other good stories? Any other good questions?
If not, I will go ahead and start with my closing slides. All right, outside of WordPress meetups, here are a couple places where you can get information about support for WordPress. And that is the Baltimore WordPress Meetup page, as well as the WP Help Desk support page. Our next meetup will be on November 6th. That is going to be a hybrid meetup. That means for the very first time in 7 years, WordPress Baltimore will be meeting in person and online.
Woo!
And that will be November 6th at 11 a.m. And we're going to be talking about cybersecurity for individuals, small businesses, and nonprofits. And RSVP at the meetup page. Thank you so much, Kirsten, for joining us. It was a great presentation. We really enjoyed having you all the way from Vancouver.
Hey, thank you very much. That was a ton of fun.